Look, I know we've joked about it in the past. I know that we've had our bit of fun with the idea, but it's now a reality.
It's very possible.
We thought that it was just going to be the 6 guys in the Money in the Bank ladder match, but it's become lucky number 7 as Logan Paul, YouTube megastar Logan Paul, social media entrepreneur. Like, I'm trying to be as WWE as I can on this. Came out on Raw and announced himself as being in Money in the Bank. And then a lot of wrestlers came out and said, well, that's fine, I guess.
You could say he has a prime opportunity to get the briefcase. Welcome, everybody, to the Raw Review here on the Wrestle Talk podcast. I am Dan, the Truth. This is Luke Owen, DAD. And when you make the joke of the day, we're not even a minute into the podcast. And
Don't you be bringing your no rolls barred things over here. Thank you very much. Don't you be bringing your NRP gags and nonsense over here.
It's a multiverse of madness, all right? It's multiverse season. What can I tell you?
Please press the subscribe button, press the thumbs up button if this is your first time here, and leave a comment down below if you're watching this on demand. But if you're watching it live, get in your ultra nats to wrestletalk.com/support. There's a big boo there. Dan's joke.
Yeah. I have when I thought about the ultra nats today, okay, I have to this is not the lead part of the show, is
what? Natalia is not our lead. For a second week running,
I know, it's a shame.
We fobbed her off as being the lead for this story.
But spoilers, I really enjoyed this episode of Raw. And there was a moment in here where my heart sort of ached a little bit for Natty. We'll get into it, but then I was like, oh no, I hope we're not piling on to an actual genuine moment of identity crisis for this human being with the Ultranats. So I'm making sure the Ultranats are a tribute, all right? That is a tribute to Nat.
Not from me, they're not. But anyway, the thing we are going to be talking about in this podcast, I'm sure she's lovely. I'm sure she's a very nice person, IRL. I don't care for her on my television. But the main talking point we're going to be discussing here to kick us off is this. Last week, they announced Logan Paul was going to be appearing on Raw. He's in his hometown of Cleveland. And, there were some people who theorized, maybe he'll just be entered into Money in the Bank. He'll just announce he's in Money in the Bank, or he'll do a qualifier or something along those lines. And I thought, I don't think they'll just do that. I don't think they would go through the rigmarole of having 6 qualifying matches and then just have one man come out and be like, oh, I'm in it as well now. Because I think that sets a precedent that the other 6 are losers that had to work to qualify for this match. But this guy is an actual star, so he just gets to be in the match. And then at the end of this segment, he took everyone out and he stood tall and he was the star of this segment. I think my big takeaway from this episode of Raw was I don't think this did any favors for Money in the Bank.
Oh, interesting.
In terms of, I don't think it made the 6 participants look good because Logan Paul just announced himself for it and then beat them all up. Damian Priest got pinned. Shinsuke Nakamura got pinned. And that was because Ricochet's an idiot. Not really, I think that's a bit harsh. But Ricochet sort of cost Nakamura the match and things like that. I just don't think it did a great job of making the Money in the Bank guys look good. I think the women's side of things is a much better thing. I quite like the Trish and Raquel thing. Although I thought the match wasn't great, I quite like the story that they were going for in that. So I don't think they made Money in the Bank feel good or special. But Logan Paul being in Money in the Bank, I think is a big thumbs up.
Oh my God, huge.
I think this is... I know I've been joking about it and I've been sort of saying it's a bit of a trolling thing, but deep down I've also thought I think it's a great idea.
It's a great opportunity.
I was chatting with people at the last live show that we did and people were like, who wants to see you in Money in the Bank? And I was legit saying Logan Paul. Because can you imagine when he's doing his podcast and that briefcase is always... And because he's never around, when he then just shows up, it becomes this huge deal. It's oh man, it's not just Logan Paul is here, it's the Money in the Bank holder is here. Mr. Money in the Bank is here. Champs beware. And there's some really cool excitement around that. Then you put the world title on him, which you may as well do. You can have that behind him on his podcast and stuff. I think there could be some really good that could come out of Logan Paul being in Money in the Bank. Well, what before we talk about him possibly winning the thing, what did you make of this segment and the whole story as a whole?
It's interesting that your take on it was that this show didn't do a lot for Money in the Bank in general. I do see where you're coming from. For me, I kind of felt the opposite. I don't know if I just woke up on the right side of the bed this morning, but I had a really good time from the moment the show kicked off right the way through to the end. And I really enjoyed this segment because when the lights came up and he's already sat atop the ladder, I instantly knew why he was there, right? Last week I was like, maybe he's answering Seth's open challenge. When that went out the window, I was like, okay, so he's not. So he's here for
Money in the
Bank. And then he started cutting this promo, and he's really good about it. And he brings up the famous people from Cleveland, LeBron James, Jerry the King Lawler. And I was like, wouldn't necessarily think of those people as inherently famous because of Cleveland. And then he's like, because we left, right? And I'm like, oh, what brilliant little heel work you've done there.
Very good at getting the local Cleveland heats.
And I think that when I started to think about the positioning of Logan Paul being in this ladder match, and then I realized who else was in there because they all came out, I was like, do you know what? I'm into this because it's that whole thing of I'm actually so big. I'm Logan Paul. I'm one of the biggest stars in the world. Like me or hate me, I can negotiate my way into something. And that doesn't necessarily make the others look, to me, doesn't feel like chumps, but it does make him feel like a big old heel, a big old smart Brock Lesnar kind of, I'm only going to do if I'm not on first, that's the one first kind of main event person. He's in the match. And now I can't wait to watch him be battered by a load of ladders.
Oh, I think he's going to be, I mean, Ricochet's in there.
I was about to say, it's a Ricochet, and when Ricochet then comes out and is like the first one to come out, and they had that moment, that like unreal Matrix moment in the Royal Rumble that went viral, and Ricochet was like, I kind of made you, without me, you're just a guy doing a move.
Yeah,
like that. His point was like, I helped you go viral with that moment. Don't count me out. Ricochet and Logan Paul in the same ladder match. I just want to watch Logan Paul be bashed on a bunch of ladders, but you're also going to see some real athleticism. Also, they do this kind of PR move. They do this kind of bringing in a celebrity for these big shows. It's in London. KSI will probably be there again. You know, it's his home turf. Like, you want to have that crossover appeal. You want to have that mainstream.
It's the whole point of having Logan Paul here.
It's the whole point. And now what they have already going into the show is Logan Paul holding the Money in the Bank briefcase. That's a still. He doesn't even need to win the thing. But they've got a picture of him with his hands on the Money in the Bank briefcase on the top of a ladder. And what makes it so great, which is so different compared to other celebrity PR moments that we have had in the past, Pamela Anderson, for instance, is that I think we all know at this point, based on Logan's experience in the ring, we're going to be in for something good.
He's going to be really great in that match. Like, I think it's him and Ricochet are probably going to be like the human highlight reels of it. Like, I think in the 3 count, I said Ricochet is like the Shelton Benjamin of this match. He's there. He's not going to win. He's not going to come with an ass's roar of winning, but he's just there to do the fun spots. That's going to be really impressive. Totally. Logan Paul is also going to be able to do those in really cool and impressive spots, but be that threat of winning. And
it's the threat of winning that makes it so compelling.
That's exactly it.
Because it was,
so
I was
when
saying
he is close to winning, he's going to be getting that great London UK crowd heat because we don't want to see him win. And that's what makes him nearly winning or potentially winning really great.
It's interesting because I had this with Pete when we had Crown Jewel. Pete really obviously did not want him to win. He's like, he's not winning. I'm like, but there's a chance. All it takes is 3 seconds. You're like, there's as long as you've got a 1% chance that he might do it. Like, no one expected. We said this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. No one expected Roman to win at WrestleMania. So, but it happened. This could happen. He could win this match. If it were me booking it, would I have it happen? No. I think you get the PR.
I think I would.
Because you made a good compelling argument. You made a good compelling argument about the idea of him having the briefcase. He's not around a lot. He'll come back. I just think that for me, you can do more with the briefcase with someone who is present, who you're going to elevate to the next level. And I have a winner in that match in that regard. And I think based on the crowd reactions, so do we all.
Yeah, but for me, there's 2 names, and there's one name that's it's greatly outshined the other. Yeah.
And I think that the idea of Logan winning is fun. But I think more than anything, WWE have the PR they wanted by having him in the match full stop. They'll get the great viral moments. And then Logan can go off and do whatever he wants to do until the next big show.
Yeah.
I mean, SummerSlam is on the way, so...
I still think this is LA Knight's match to lose.
I do too.
I don't think you can be a wrestling company and not hear those reactions and not think, yeah, we should probably push this guy to the moon.
It's so funny because I wrote that down, but because basically what happened was, I mean, I don't want to take over your gig, but what happened was Logan starts talking, and then one by one, all the participants come out, which is such a WWE thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, or
like
brand split. LOL.
Yeah.
It's like, why was LA Knight there?
Yeah,
And,
you know
but
what?
it doesn't. It's pro wrestling.
I'm choosing to just the brand split doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
Whatever.
No,
Like
it was important for about a week and a half
to try and get the NFL bump.
Yep, and then they were like, not asked.
Yeah.
No, just be on whatever show you want.
So I've chosen to move on. But they all start coming out.
Dana Brooke was drafted to Raw and then showed up on NXT last week and said, I could be on any show I want.
Yeah.
So what? Yep. I mean, all right, cool.
Well, there you go.
The draft was pointless then.
So they all start coming out, and everyone has something to say. Everyone has a bit to do. LA Knight comes
Like how you
out.
say everyone's got something to say. I mean, I think there's a difference between having something to say and saying something. Because, like, Ricochet came out and said something.
I think he had something to say.
Nakamura came out and said something.
That one's true.
Santos Escobar came out and said something.
That one's true. I think Ricochet had something to say.
Pete Dunne came out and Logan Paul, like, I don't even know who you are.
That line was, but that's Logan Paul. He's a heel. He should say that. But my point being, they all come out. They're saying some stuff. LA Knight comes out and he's like, I'm cutting a promo like old style Rock, old style Steve Austin.
Yeah.
I'm basically on a roll. I'm barely taking a breath, and I've got all these things to say. And then the crowd are with me, and it's just like, oh, that guy's a bit of a star. And I loved Butch coming out, and he didn't have a microphone in his hand. He just got in and
just went for a fight.
You don't know who I am. You know who I am now. Starts a little brawl. We have a tiny little brawl, and then as Logan Paul is climbing the ladder to get his shot of him holding the briefcase, the crowd are on their feet chanting for LA Knight, who isn't even in frame. And I'm like, oh, there's a bit of spice here. Take advantage of this. I just hope that Vince McMahon's mustache didn't start tingling. Because if he notices that we like a person, he will not give it to us.
I think that there's a chance that that's not going to happen for a variety of reasons. The number one of which, though, is that when LA Knight came out, the commentary were going out of their way to be like, did you hear that reaction? Wow, did you hear the reaction that LA Knight got? Because I think they know that he is getting this incredible swell of crowd reaction, right? Like this crowd love, and people are really getting behind LA Knight. Feels like one of the biggest stars that they've got on SmackDown at the moment in terms of crowd reactions. So I think you can ride that wave of momentum. In the 3 count predictions video that we did, and I'll go into a little bit more on this when we do the predictions video, I suppose. But for me, it comes down to LA Knight and Damian Priest. And the reason why I'm leaning more towards Priest is because I think it's more likely someone cashes in on Seth than they do on Roman.
Right.
So if it goes into LA Knight, then you decide either he just moves across to Raw, or I don't know why I'm putting so much emphasis on this whole Raw and SmackDown thing. They aren't. But like, I think if we're going to at least try and pretend that it is a thing, then you do want to keep some delineation there. But I want it to be LA Knight more. But do I want it more on Logan Paul?
It's what makes the most narrative face heel storyline. And LA Knight, they all cut promos that were put onto Twitter, and LA Knight was sort of, he even mentioned the whole thing of like, oh, you can just walk in and declare yourself. I didn't know that was a thing we could do. The rest of us had to do matches, but you know what, whatever, you're in the match, I'm going to take you out, kind of thing. And I think that's a really good way of, like, I mean, it just shows it's a heel tactic for Logan Paul. I think it would be very, very satisfying for him to take this briefcase, and the Stephanie McMahon model of prancing around like he'd really earned this thing when he actually kind of hadn't, although he probably would.
But he probably would do. But that's the difference with Logan Paul, is that you can't really do that celebrity that has just stepped in here and has just taken a spot, because he's good.
Yeah.
And like, he legit has earned most of the things that he is doing because he's dead good at what he does.
If it were me,
annoyingly so.
Oh, this is the thing. I don't care about Logan Paul I've never really consumed his content. I don't know what Prime tastes like.
I literally know him as a wrestler.
That's it.
That is the extent of my Logan Paul knowledge.
I as a YouTuber, I have found his framing of the notion of a YouTuber irritating. I did find the Suicide Forest extravaganza to be just so distasteful. But in the context of the WWE, he's doing a fantastic job. I just think, for me, if I'm booking this match, I'm using that name value, the talent that he has clearly got for this. I think he's a far better wrestler than he was ever going to be a boxer. And so also I love that he called him his own brother a loser. People from Cleveland who are losers, like my brother. I would have, if I'm booking this match, I've got the opportunity. I'm going to have a huge, massive, unbelievable viral Ricochet Logan Paul moment. They're going to take each other out. And that's LA Knight's opportunity to go up and get it. So you get the best of all worlds.
People pointing out there as well, it's like he also scammed people with NFTs. You know,
Of course he did.
But within the wrestling
world,
I think there's a lot of upside to Logan Paul. I think having him in the match makes the most sense. Like that is what I would do with if I had Logan Paul on my roster, I'd put him in Money in the Bank. I'd have those moments where it looks like he's going to win. Particularly if it looks like he's going to win, then from out of nowhere, LA Knight stops him and then LA Knight wins.
You want to make a statement having LA Knight do that with a London crowd?
Because that's going to be a hell of a reaction when LA Knight stops him.
Great shout.
And then he wins. Like that's the moment that you want to book. But equally, like him having Money in the Bank, I don't think is the worst idea in the world either.
Yeah.
Look, I've got my grievances with him just being in the match because I get what you're saying. He could do this Brock Lesnar type thing, but that's not what they said on television. He just said, "I'm in the match."
We said he called the executives.
Yes, but I think you're not making more of this. Or like the wrestlers being pissed off that he's just in the match. Because like Ricochet just comes out and be like, "Oh, you're in the match, are you? Okay, cool." You're officially in the match. Then Nakamura comes out. It's like, actually, Ricochet, I've got a problem with you. And it's like, well, why haven't you got a problem with Logan Paul?
So I disagree with you only because Ricochet did come out and sort of say, like, don't forget that your viral moment was mine. Like, there was a reason.
That's a difference to being like,
sure.
I had to fight to get into this position and you just got handed to it. Like that is a storyline you can tell. Him saying I made you go viral, I don't think it's true.
But Ricochet does, and that's what's important.
It's a weak source argument.
Yeah, right.
It's also not relevant to the point at hand that Logan Paul is making. So I think that something more could be made of it from there. Maybe my grievance here is it's an open goal that's not being taken.
Right.
It is just. I think there's a laziness in just being like, he's in the match.
Almost instead of everyone coming out, why not just have LA Knight come out and read him a little bit? But then again, you potentially make LA Knight look weak because what you want is that final shot. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It didn't bother me.
But that's it. Like, and I said, like, it's just a minor grievance that I've got with the segment. But like, I think my minor grievance is completely overshadowed by I think the larger positive of him being in the match.
Yeah, and I think it is. I think it's a massive positive.
Yeah, I would completely agree on that.
I just can't wait. I want him to break a ladder on his back. Do you know what I mean? I want them to throw him through, make a pile of ladders and put him through all of them.
What I find
satisfying.
What I find very interesting about Logan Paul, we're going to get into your Ultra Chats, your Ultra Nats, on this topic as well. Logan Paul is not a draw for us
in the UK.
Well, in terms of like Wrestle Talk content.
Right.
Like we have done Wrestle Talk news episodes where Logan Paul is the lead. And you'd think, I mean, literally the whole point of having Logan Paul is that he's got this mainstream crossover appeal, right? But anytime that we've led with Logan Paul, like, news doesn't do it very well. And I'm leading with this on the podcast now because I thought this was like the most interesting thing on the show, which I thought was broadly a totally fine show with a handful of highlights and not even like, I wouldn't even say there's lows, just very few highlights. It was a totally fine 3 out of 5 episode of Raw. But we've led here. Our concurrent viewers aren't as high as they have been previously. And then I look at the Ultranats, one person
has something to say.
Has something to say about it. One person has an opinion on this. And I look at this like, it's amazing. They keep telling me he's this big mainstream draw, and yet we put him on things and doesn't.
I'm going to give you the key phrase, casual viewer. It's like the person who would just be watching the show or would be reading the thing. Maybe like my mate Jack, right, who doesn't watch wrestling but does try to tell me all the things that he knows about wrestling when WrestleMania comes around, and I go, yes, okay, Jack. He would hear, oh, Logan Paul's wrestling at Money in the Bank in a ladder match. I'll watch that. Like, if you're watching it, let's watch it together. That's the kind of person who's going to be brought in by Logan Paul. Us lot, who are here every single week, and we believe that someone like LA Knight, or an opportunity to get Santos Escobar over to another level, or an opportunity to see Butch have that huge hometown moment, we're far more intrigued by those kind of storylines and by that development, and something like Kevin and Sammy and Cody being this main event trio, or Trish being put in the Money in the Bank ladder match for the first time ever. Like, there's other things for us to care about. It is the casual viewer who they are trying to get. And I think it works.
I don't think it is.
You know?
I don't think it is because I don't think he has shown to be a ratings, like he's not been shown to be a needle mover.
Right.
I don't think he has shifted extra pay-per-view buys or like extra sign-ups to Peacock.
Mm.
I mean, you can't really look at the ticket sales because Money in the Bank had already sold out, so you can't say like we put him on. Like CM Punk, for example, they put tickets on at the United Center and they sold out on the rumor that Punk was going to be there. They announced Punk, ticket sales then sold out.
Right.
Like that is, you can look at that and be like, that's hard data. He sold that
He's a
building.
draw.
He's a draw. He sold that building out. I don't know if we can have. I don't know if we've got that data for Logan Paul to show that he is. But I don't think that's a reason not to do it because the idea is solid enough. He has got 1 billion followers on whatever platforms that he's on. So you'd think that's like people will then migrate over. I don't think it works in principle, but I think the theory's there, and I think the Austin theory is worth exploring.
And again, at the end of the day, what do I care about? Enjoying the show, right? And I think I'm gonna. I
totally get that. I like the business aspect of it. That's
Right,
why I like ratings. That's why I like ticket sales. That's why I like diving into numbers because
I'm a creator.
Because I find that bit interesting.
Yeah.
So I am interested in that side of things. But like I think if we ran a poll now and just said like, do you want to see Logan Paul win or like should Logan Paul win? I reckon you'd probably get a 60-40 result on that. And like there's part of that which is like, oh, that's interesting, a split audience. But I think you'd also look at that and be like, yeah, I don't think people are bothered either way. Like I think if Logan Paul was as hated as a heel, it would be 90% no, 10% yes. But I think there'd be more of a split audience on that. But you know what? Let's put it as a poll. Let's see if my theory is true. Mod Mother, if you can hear me, let's have a poll. Should Logan Paul win Money in the Bank? Yes or no?
Well, what a good way of getting actual data from our lovely people. That's very smart of you.
Well, thank you very much. Also, I think I would say there might be a very strong no contingent there, only because people will want LA Knight to win.
I know. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And I think I do love the idea of him having the briefcase on his podcast or like someone who's not there all the time showing up. It makes a huge moment, especially after Theory being the most previous winner. But I think it's hard to look past someone like. It's hard, especially because this one, as we spoke about last week, and people were more keen on it than I was. This idea of this mid-card match being a real opportunity, and I've been going back and watching old Money in the Banks and realizing that
a very good Twitter thread as well.
Thank you very much. I had a break because I had a full weekend of Mission Impossible, but it's very fun to go back and look at them because you sort of see we actually had a run here of some really main event people in this, like AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, like whatever, in these Money in the Bank ladder matches. This is what the match was supposed to be.
That's what I like. That's why I like the original sixth lineup that they had. And actually, I'm probably more interested now with the seventh entrant in there with Logan Paul. I am not a person that's looking at this being like, oh, what a mid-card Money in the Bank. I was like, no, this is good. Let's elevate someone into the main event scene.
And that's what's making people be anti the idea of, or pro LA Knight or Damian Priest. I think we want that.
Exactly.
We want to see that.
I think I might have even said this on last week's episode, or I was on a Dynamite or a review or something like that. But when Randy Orton won Money in the Bank, I was like, what's the point? Like when John Cena was like, what's the point? Like they get title shots every other week anyway, so what's the point in giving them Money in the Bank? You're better off giving it to someone like a Dean Ambrose or giving it to someone like a Seth Rollins, giving it to, in this case, an LA Knight, giving it to someone who you can elevate up into a new position. I was excited when they gave it to Sandow.
Yeah, that's a great.
Because that's a potential to try and create someone new. I mean, they didn't take it, but they had the potential.
But they could have.
Right, let's get into your Ultra Nats. Joel Shepherd really just repeats what we've got as the title of this, which is, so Logan's winning Money in the Bank then.
I mean, I don't think, like we said, I don't think it's wired on, but it's a possibility now. There's always the 1%.
We have had a few more come in since I said that no one's talking about this. Father Beps has become a member who just says, hi, Truth and Luke. Has to be Knight, right? Yeah, him or Logan, but we need a full timer to get the briefcase over. But will they put the belt on him? World Heavyweight, 100% I can see them putting on it. Universal, no.
So my question here then about that is, if I don't personally think Roman is holding the belt all the way to
Mania?
I don't.
Oh, I do.
I have a lovely little conspiracy theory for you because I love them. That Payback is on the way and he's gonna lose it.
Oh yeah,
because he won the belt at Payback the last time they did a show called Payback. It's the same weekend he won it. Also, Jay makes him lose the belt, whether to himself or he loses it to someone else. That's Payback, mate. Do you know what I mean? The show is called Payback, so I'm like, you could have a look. You could play with that, and they love their little poetry three symmetry moments. So,
that's actually a very good point. I had not considered it.
But
I'll be honest. I was more annoyed that they announced a pay-per-view the day before All Out.
Well, All Out hasn't been announced yet.
It has.
It hasn't been official.
Yes, it has. It's September 2nd. No, September 2nd. They said that
Payback.
Yes, what I said.
No, All Out hasn't been officially made yet.
They said All Out's a week later.
Did they? I thought that was just it hasn't been officially confirmed.
I'm pretty sure that had been confirmed.
Either way, at least it's not on the same night. You know, if they announce an NXT show for the same night as All Out, I'll be fuming.
No, it's worse. It just makes our lives so much harder. Also, All In's the week before. That's 3 shows in 1 week.
Oh, man,
they never.
Too much of a good thing.
They never. Oh, you're right. It hasn't been officially confirmed. But they never think of the content creators.
They never think of us. You're right. We should strike.
And that's why I hate them. They're petty little bastards running a show there. I'm busy, man. I've got things to do.
I got kids.
I've got kids, mate. Kids. No plural.
Singular. So anyway, just quick to bring me back on topic with LA Knight is that like if the belt comes off Roman, Knight doesn't have to cash in soon. You know, it could cash in at Royal Rumble or whatever. You know, he could hold it until next May. Like it's a possible. I don't even love the idea of him walking around with that briefcase kind of promo. Yeah. So they're just being like, Roman won't drop the belt on a B pay-per-view. Didn't think he'd win at WrestleMania either. Anything can happen at this point. 1%.
Sheldon Jackson said, Logan Paul confirmed it last night that he won't be winning Money in the Bank because he climbed the ladder and touched the briefcase. We know in WWE history, if you touch the briefcase before the match itself, you ain't winning it.
Look, it is written.
We all thought that Roman was going to lose at WrestleMania. Anything could happen. Hector Rodriguez has been a member for 17 months in a row. Said, let's say Logan wins the briefcase. What happens if he only cashes in on the Universal Championship? What happens to the gold undisputed title?
So
right, because Roman's got 3 belts at the moment.
Yeah. So my thing about that was the undisputed title is sort of a Roman exclusive title because he's the only one who sort of deserves that big old gold one. So when he loses the belt,
Asuka's belt looks the same.
Yeah, but hers is cooler. But like when don't get me started on Asuka's belt.
But it's supposed to look like the main title.
I know.
Roman,
Cody
honestly,
was supposed to win at Mania.
Roman having all 3 belts was the funniest thing. I know the Friday segment was really great.
Yeah.
I know that Jey Uso had a really good performance. I know that Jimmy was great. I know that Roman and Solo and Heyman were all great. I could not take my eyes off the fact that there's 3 world titles on him now. The whole point of giving the new one was to get rid of the other 2, and he's just kept them. He's got 3 world. There's a backstage segment. They're all piled on top of each other. It's the most ludicrous thing.
An internal conversation about whether or not they're ever going to keep all 3. I was like, of course there is. Of course there is.
It's so stupid.
Nonsense.
I have no idea what they're doing with those belts.
This wasn't the plan, was it?
Sky Shadowrunner here said, on a delay, so apologies if it has been said, but LA Knight said it best. The people who are drawn to Logan Paul are 14-year-olds. They're the one watching his videos, flooding shops to buy Prime. I don't think anyone else really cares this much. That was from our moderator, Rob. So, I think Rob just agrees with that.
Rob said yes.
Yes, I agree with all of this. Yeah, it's funny when I was walking through one of my local town centre. I've never actually seen Prime in shops before.
No, I haven't either.
But then I did. It was in like a specific like gaming, like we sell Squid Games stuff. We sell like plushies. And whatnot.
Yeah.
And they had Prime on sale there. And I did see a 14-year-old go like, oh, sweet Prime. And I was like, it's the first time I've actually heard that like out loud from a human being.
Look, you're getting the next generation of fans in. That's what I'm saying.
And the Guilty Hat here says, hello, Luke, and the only truth in wrestling worth a damn. I hate to say it, but Logan is the best choice. It works for the character. Maybe draws in casual fans via his tactic, but mostly for me, you can't beat Mr. Money in the Bank like a drum if he's not there. That's also a very good point. Right, let's get into the rest of this show. But actually, before we do, Dan, I just wanted to have a little bit of... I don't know what I would call this, but we've got a live show coming up.
I fully don't know where you're going.
We've got a live show coming up. We're doing Money in the Bank in a couple of weeks' time. We are going to be back in the Long Arm Pub and Brewery, having a great time with all of you and people. It's sold out.
Yeah.
Quizlemania is sold out. So we had something made to promote it anyway, because just in case ticket sales weren't there, but we sold out. But I just want to show you the video anyway.
Show off.
But so it's going to be playing, but we're going to talk over it. But like, this is what you can expect when you come to our live event next time. And I'm going to also use this as an opportunity to tell you that on Thursday if you are a ticket holder, you will be getting an email. Well, tickets will go on sale. Extra tickets are going on sale for Quizzlemania. We're opening up 15 more seats for Quizzlemania Live 2. So you can come and join us. And also, if you've got your ticket, you're going to be part of this great fun as well. Hanging out with some of the best wrestling fans on the planet as we enjoy Money in the Bank at the Long Arm Pub and Brewery. Here is the moment where Decker Dane won a replica Jam Bad Championship in our raffle. There's the Professor Dan Layton having a lovely time.
Asuka had just won, so I was like, oh, I could win this belt, It's very spicy.
So yeah, I just wanted to show this video because I'm dead excited for us to do another one of those.
It's a good vibe. It's a very good vibe.
Yeah.
And I can't wait. I genuinely, I just cannot wait. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Anyway, let's get into the rest of this episode of Raw.
And I have to tell you, I really liked the show. You were talking about it being like a 3-star, like no low lights, but no real highlights. From the moment the show opened, I was like, oh, hello. I sat up in my seat.
This is the best thing in the show.
The moment the show ended, I thought this was genuinely very, very high in the star rating. I will tell you it when we get there at the end. I had a great time.
Well,
and I like these more. I like these shows where like we're slightly differing because it means we get to have a fight. But also like
because I don't think we're gonna have a fight on this.
No, we're gonna fight.
Because you're gonna really enjoy something, and I'm gonna go, yeah, it's fine. Like I don't think there's much of a fight there because I didn't actively hate anything on this show.
Right.
I think there's one bad match on this show.
Oh, I can't wait to find out which one it was.
It was Raquel versus Trish.
Wrong.
And it was all Raquel.
No.
I thought Trish was totally fine, but I thought Raquel was
I disagree.
A charisma vacuum in that match, and I thought Becky's performance won all that either.
Let them fight.
But I don't think I don't think there was anything on the show that was bad.
The chat, right? You pay attention to this and tell me when I'm telling lies.
But so the report,
you can play that game, punk. Gimmick stealer.
The report is from various sources. Vince McMahon made a lot of changes to this show.
Yes, he did.
Most of them were like minor changes, its placement, things here and there. But the thing that he did change was the opening of the show. And I think you can tell when Vince has changed a show at the last minute remotely because the pacing is way off and ad breaks come in at funny times. There's a moment during this show when they have this segment. Finn Balor attacks Rollins, then the Judgment Day make an entrance to cut a promo about the fact they attacked him and lay out a challenge. Then we have a match. Then Cody Rhodes makes a full entrance to come out and accept that challenge. So I'm like, oh, we are just filling time.
Right.
Because we have scrapped whatever we had planned, which was probably the open challenge that Seth Rollins was going to do. And now we just need to try and like scramble and fill for time. But the show did open with Seth Rollins to talk about his open challenge. But Finn Balor attacked him while he was posing. And then just kicked the tar out of him.
Oh, he went for it, didn't he?
Yeah, this was great. This was good from Balor.
Yeah,
he needed this to make him feel like he was a credible threat to the belt. It also feeds in from what Seth said to him last week. It was like, I want that guy from 7 years ago, the guy that beat me 7 years ago, because I haven't seen that Finn for 7 years. And we got that here. He hit a coup de grace off the stairs.
Yeah.
He hit a coup de grace off the announcer's table. Security were leading him off, so he just ran round and hit another coup de grace off the stairs. Very, very good. I thought this was an excellent segment.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think it was exactly what was needed for balance from last week, because Finn's intensity in this moment was really off the chain. Like when he like basically rammed Seth into that table at breakneck pace, then being pulled away. When he did that leap off the stairs into a coup de grace, I gasped and I sat forward. I was like, oh, we're doing this, are we?
Yeah.
Okay. And then doing it the second time, and there was he did it the second time and sort of fell backwards, as you can do with a move like that now and again. And he was sort of grabbed by the army of security and WWE officials, and
including Jason Jordan,
and they dragged him back. And it made him look like he was like a psycho. Like it made him look like he was being dragged away after causing some form of giant crime scene. And I thought it was like real bit of improvisation from him in the moment to still make himself look intense and cool while on the ground. And that kind of like feeds into what I was saying last week. I was maybe a bit too harsh on Finn last week, but what I was essentially saying was step up and take the moment and respond to it. That's what the best do. And he really did here. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought he nailed it. And I thought Seth's selling of it was brilliant as well.
Yeah.
And when it continued into the backstage area.
Just ragdolling him around in the back. I mean, it was filmed horribly, but it was like, that's WWE production. But like, I think the intensity of the brawl was dead good. I thought Rollins was great. I thought Balor was really good in this. I actually think this did a lot for Balor. And I run a bit slightly hot and cold on this. I thought Bron Breakker's promo that he cut later on in the night, like 'cause Rollins is facing Bron on NXT tonight. So I was right last week.
You were, and I apologize. I'm big enough to apologize.
I really second guessed myself on that because I was like, it felt like it was announced for next week, but no, it was. It's happening this week here.
Maybe I wasn't paying attention.
It wasn't just you; everyone else was correcting me as well. But I thought that the promo was really good from Bron, even though he is dressed like Dominic Toretto from Fast and Furious these days. And I thought that was good. I don't think it's the best use of Bron. I thought we could have done something bigger with him. I wonder if they did have something bigger for him planned before the big plans changed. Yeah. And then Rollins at the end of the night was just like, oh, I'll still be there for NXT tomorrow. And I'm like, it slightly downplays some of the attack. But that's also the problem with booking 2 open challenges within 2 days of each other.
That is a good point. When we get to those parts in the show, I actually really enjoy them for different reasons. And we would spitball in a fun idea in the office earlier on, which I think will be a nice little thought experiment for us later on. But I totally see what you're saying. And actually, when I found out that Vince had played with the segment initially, I was like, oh no, I have to give him credit because it was a good open. But you are right, though, that later on does cause a couple of wobbles here and there, narrative and just pace and structure wise is the word I'm looking for.
You book 3 title matches in the space of 2 weeks, which is what they had done, because it was an open challenge tonight. There's the match with Bron on NXT tonight, and then there's the title match at Money in the Bank. So one of those has got to suffer. It was the one tonight, and it kind of sort of moves into the one tomorrow.
I mean, you're getting some defenses of it, aren't you?
Yeah, you're getting some, but really, we're just looking ahead to Money in the Bank, and even then, I think most people are looking past Money in the Bank because Finn ain't winning. Corey Graves, I'm just going to make a little note here. I think he said he's just dressed like someone I'd want to avoid down my local Weatherspoons.
He was in a very casual affair.
I know, and I looked at him and I was like, I would definitely move to the other side of the bar. If I saw you queuing up at a Weatherspoons, I'd be like, I'm going down the other end.
Normally with Corey's drip, I'm like, yeah, I'd like that. Not this one. You'll never see me in a polo neck.
Speaking of that sort of weird pacing, The Miz was just in the ring.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, well, I was going to answer the open challenge, but now that Seth's not here, I'm going to have an open challenge of my own. And it was answered by it was answered by Tommaso Ciampa. And he then beat The Miz.
What a great return pop for Ciampa. Like, this crowd I want to put over because they were great all night, I thought. But it was a big old pop for Ciampa. And again, I'm in a really good mood for some reason this morning. So I thought, he gets right in there and gives him straight right hand. No hanging about. I was like, all right, I like this opening. This is a good show. I'm into it. I kind of didn't care about at this point, I wasn't really noticing any of the pacing issues and stuff like that. For me, I was just seeing it get on with it. And a big problem I have with Raw, especially when we have to get up first thing in the morning to watch them, is I'm like, can you just stop talking and do something? And all I got on this episode of Raw was people doing something. And I appreciated the continuity of having Ciampa return against The Miz. At one point in the middle of it, he went over to Kevin Patrick and was like, never text me when I was poorly. Bam! Like, I quite liked it. And, if you didn't know Ciampa, or if you'd forgotten, or if you were like,
it's been gone 8 months.
It's been gone 8 months, and when he left, he was Miz's lackey. This was a great sort of reminder of, with the crowd pop and the moves he was hitting.
Exactly. Cleveland's a good place because he's got the connection to Gargano. Exactly. Him beating Miz makes all the sense in the world as well. Yeah. And that's what you have the Miz for. Fun fact, he hasn't won a match since December 19th.
What, Miz?
Miz,
Doesn't need to because he's so good.
Because, he's just there to be pinned. Like, that is his role.
And look strong in defeat.
I don't think he did that. But the match was totally fine. It did exactly what it needs to do, which was bring back Tommaso Ciampa.
Yeah.
I think there is a very valid complaint about the show is that there was no Johnny Gargano on this show. It was in Cleveland. He was backstage. He was there at the show, and they just chose not to use him.
I wonder if there'd have been a moment where, like, Miz was like...
Well, I think...
And then Gargano comes out and he's like, it's not me, it's this guy. And I resent when they do that, so I'm kind of glad if that was the plan, that got nixed.
I think he was going to answer the open challenge.
Oh, God, that would be such a shame.
I would have thought that's what you would do with Johnny Gargano. Like I said this on last week's show, the whole point of Seth doing an open challenge, and it's in Cleveland, it's like, well, Johnny Gargano can come out, and they, as the workhorse champion, you can go out there and have a banging match.
When I say a shame, I mean a shame for Gargano that didn't happen if that was what it was going to be, because that would have been a fun little moment.
He seemed quite sad about it on Twitter that he wasn't on the show as
well.
Then we got that Judgment Day promo that I mentioned earlier, and Finn basically says, look, I cancelled the open challenge because I'm going to be the one to take the belt off of Rollins, so maybe he's going to be on NXT tonight as well because Bryn Bruckles might take the belt off of him. Rhea says she's got the division on lockdown. Balor's going for the world title. Priest is going for the briefcase, and Dom Dom is going to beat Cody Rhodes. And then they said, we're going to if you can find 2 partners, we'll have a little trios match in the main event. We then got a recap of SmackDown. Kevin and Sammy got interviewed backstage, and Owen's like, I don't want to talk about the bloodline.
Yeah.
And it got a bit, this is a bit of a show-long storyline, but one that didn't have a payoff, which is that Sammy challenged Owens to not freak out on this show because he said Owens has got anger management issues.
Yes.
And Owens is like, I don't blow up on the shows. And he's like, you do it all the time. So here's a challenge for you. If you don't blow up tonight, I won't mention it ever again. And so Owens like, yeah, okay, cool, we'll do that because I don't blow up anyway. And then he did like 2 segments where he nearly blew up, but then didn't. And I was like, oh, and this will pay off into something in the main event. But they just wrestled a normal match and it's fine. So I guess Sammy now can't bring this up because Owens kept up his part of the deal.
He did. I actually don't mind that it didn't end up going somewhere. I did initially write down how I was like quite excited to have this, like, I thought it was quite fun to have like a whole, show.
I love a show long storyline.
I loved the segments as well. I liked all of them.
The guy bumping into him with water was proper like that bit in Friends.
100%. Oh, it's hot coffee and he's trying to make him shout. Yeah, very much. I liked that. I liked the moment with Riddle because I think Kevin Owens is all of us, and in the moment with Riddle, he was especially me.
The bit with Riddle, I was like, this is written specifically for Dan Layton.
But yeah, I don't know. I to the point where because I was enjoying it I did expect in the main event for it maybe to be a moment that made him, boil over and lose it or something. But actually, I don't care.
I wonder if this is just like, as I said, I'm not saying it's a huge down point on the show. It's just like it set something up and it didn't really pay off.
Yeah,
but it's fine. But that's because that is the story of this week's show.
Yeah,
it was fine.
Yeah.
We then got some TikTok videos featuring Chelsea Green having various different Karen freakouts, and then she and Sonya Deville lost to Kaden Carter and Katana Chance in. It was a match.
Okay, so I have a couple things on this. First of all, I enjoyed the TikTok
I'm amazed
segment.
you got a couple.
Well, okay. I enjoyed the TikTok segment. I thought it was fun and different. I thought it went on too long, but it was a good opportunity to see a little bit about Chelsea Green doing her thing. I think she's great in the role. I had fun with that. I loved the John Cena bit. I liked all of that, like as I scrolling through the TikToks. I have to talk about the party girls who love to party, right? I have to, because I like them a lot. I think they have great potential. I think their double team moves in particular are really good.
Their little springboard things, very fun.
The moment where she's got it's a sort of like a reverse DDT into the 450 splash. I love that. I think as a team, there's a lot of potential. I like that the women's tag division is having some clarity, some purpose. Actual tag teams is a wonderful thing. It'll come back again when I talk about Bron Breakker later, because when you take something from NXT and you just pop it on the main roster, it doesn't always work. One of those things is their entrance, because this is like sick party music. And I guess it works in a small venue when you've got a smaller number of people and they're coming out and they're like giving it, and it's like get the crowd out, and then it's a regular crowd who are always sort of there and they want to play along and they're having a little bit of fun with it. When you put that in a big arena and they do the exact same thing but they can't connect with 10,000 people all at the same time, it does a little bit look like their dad's entering a wedding floor disco. Do you know what I mean? Yep. And it's like needs a little tweaking here and there. They're not polished yet, but I like them a lot, and I really don't want to let. I spent yonks talking about the women's tag division, so I have to give it praise when they're doing some things right.
I've got 5 words for you.
Go ahead.
Adam Rose and Emma Dance.
There you are. It did feel a bit like the Emma Dance, especially, yeah.
Because that's exactly what happened. I remember when.
Oh my God, with Santina Morella.
When Emma was in NXT and she was doing her dance, I was like, that's going to be massive on the main roster, because that's like you can get the whole crowd to do it, and everyone was doing it in NXT. You have a really fun time doing it. And she went to the main roster. They didn't do any video package to kind of explain it, and it got over like a fart in a church.
Yes.
And I was like, And I used to be that guy. I was like, it's because they didn't give it a chance. They should have used the video they got from NXT to show you how cool and fun this thing is to do, and then people would have done it, but they didn't. And then Adam Rose debuted in NXT, and I was like, that's going to get over massive on the main roster, because look how over it is in the NXT. And I think I was that fan that was in that NXT mindset of like, well, it's over in NXT, it will transfer to the main roster. I've now seen so many of those gimmicks not get over on the main roster. The Vaudevillians is another one where I was like, and it gets over like a wet fart. I'm like, I think a lot of these just don't work in bigger arenas. It works when you're in a small,
tight venue.
In that tight venue, it's like the impact zone.
Yes,
like you do things in front of the same people all the time. That's why Lance Hoyt gets massively over because people bring Hoytomania t-shirts because it's the same people there every week. But you take that on the road and it's not as big. I think that's the same thing with Katana Chance and the other one here is that like your party atmosphere shtick. When you're going out there and doing a party and everyone's sat on their hands, it makes you look a bit lame.
It does make you look lame. And also, you're tiny, tiny human beings in a giant arena. The other one I think of is Wendy Chu. Like, with she's the sleeping thing. I don't think that's going to get over on the main roster at all. I just don't think it's going to work as well. I think it get over a main event if they sell it with the crowd, but I don't think the main roster will work. I think it is a different beast, developmental and the main roster. And I think ultimately it comes down to can you back it up in the ring, and the next segment is evidence. When you can't, there's just no point. I think that the party girls can back it up in the ring, so I think it's not lost on me yet.
Kathy interviewed Cody Rhodes on the stage, who accepts Judgment Day's challenge because we've got to fill 3 hours somehow, I guess.
But I got my weekly Kathy and Cody segment, so
you
I was
certainly
happy.
did. And then Cedric and Shelton lost to Indusher in. I mean, to call this a heatless match would be an insult to heat, because good crikey, did this Cleveland crowd not care?
And this is precisely my point. We now got the match that I've been waiting for weeks. After weeks of squashes, we got a match. It was nothing in it. It was crap.
And like, I did get a bit of a chuckle out of this because it's so heatless and it's so silent in the crowd. All you can really hear is just also, as like, you know, these two brutish lads do their big moves. And normally you just hear that, you know, underneath the crowd reactions, but with no crowd reactions, it's so and it's like, oh man, you're laying on a bit thick.
Chill out a bit,
yeah, chill out a bit, mate.
Just doesn't. You know what's interesting? If I'm not wrong, I think Veer Mahan has a great story, like in real life.
He's a handsome dude as well.
Like, and it's like it's a really inspiring story. I don't know exactly what it is, but I remember reading it a couple of weeks ago, being like, use this. Like why are we trying to make him this emotionless, or characterless figure? Like, just do something with him. You know?
He's foreign, isn't he?
There you go, everybody.
Go. So, like, what? I mean,
ain't
damn,
that the truth?
What else are you gonna do with him?
You know,
I see him as a big foreign dude. What else am I supposed to do with him?
Put him with Jinder Mahal.
What other character can I give him?
Yeah, it is. There it is. Vince is back.
Works with Gunther. Owens and Zayn bump into. We did the Friends gag that we talked about earlier, and then the Matt Riddle thing where Matt Riddle's asking about his favorite films, and Kevin just goes, "Matt, I love those movies. Good luck in your match."
He mentioned the film Little Giants, which is a film that I watched a lot as a child, so I did find myself entertained by that. But I was like, again, it's this moment of like, the second he walked over to Matt Riddle, I was like, oh my god, here we go. And I like Matt Riddle in the ring, and I will put over this match in a second, but he's gonna give it all of this nonsense. He's gonna do, so Matt Riddle's funny, I'm a stoner, and that's my whole personality. and so then when Kevin starts like shouting at him, I'm like, yeah, here we go. So it just made it feel like a wink and a nudge kind of thing. It's like, we all know that actually Matt's a bit much, you know, and everyone has that person in their life. I liked it.
We got the Money in the Bank segment that we talked about at the start of the show. And speaking of movies, I thought it was so weird that Raw was sponsored by Asteroid City.
What a twist.
Because there's like, you know, there's the Flash out at the moment. There's Spider-Verse that's out at the moment. There's Transformers out at the moment. There's Indiana Jones coming. There's like big AAA blockbuster movies, and no, we're sponsored by Wes Anderson. Like, even like if it was sponsored by Donnie Darko.
I was gonna say, a couple of years ago, it's like, wow, that match between Dana Brooke and Shotzi really was something. Anyway, just before we go to the break, here's a story about the film The Lighthouse, starring Willem Dafoe. What was that?
Let me tell you a little movie called The Lobster.
It's mad. But you know what? Fine. Go and see Asteroid City. Not you.
Not me, because I think Wes Anderson's terrible. That's harsh. I think he's terrible.
Apparently, Asteroid City is very good. But why was it on an episode of Raw? Couldn't tell you.
I mean, I'll be honest, I probably would be told by people who like Wes Anderson movies that it's good. Okay. And I'll go and see it, and it's like every other Wes Anderson movie. That it's not for me. It's just not my cup of tea.
But Renfield, that was something.
Matt Riddle took on Ludwig Kaiser, recapping the story that Matt Riddle took out Giovanni Vinci 2 weeks ago, and then Imperium beat him up last week. Riddle won this, good fun, won with the bro Derek, and then Imperium beat him up after the match, targeting his leg. Do you think this gets announced for Money in the Bank?
I hope so. We have a week left. And I actually really liked this match. In fact, I wrote down, this match is the tits. I love it. I just really liked it. I thought there was a lot of great pace. I thought there was a lot of great striking. I think, you've got Riddle and Kaiser in the ring. It's going to be a good time. But what I really loved, and there were a couple of moments towards the end, were moments where moves were just given into snap reversals that quickly. I think Riddle was on a kick, and then Kaiser got him on his shoulders to the point where Corey and Kevin weren't keeping up. They were like, "What? Who was that a move on?" Because it was such a quick moment. But I caught it, like watching it. He turned it into sort of like a rollover kind of thing, and it knocked Riddle for 6, and they knew what they were doing, so it wasn't even an accident. There was that amazing moment where Kaiser's on the rope and he goes over to give him an uppercut, and Riddle turns into a German. I love that. It made it feel like a smart, like sporting contest. I'm into that kind of match, and I would like to see more of them. So thank you for giving it to me. I know you're watching Triple H.
I did very much enjoy that match. If I could pop on a little hypercritical hat here, if you don't mind.
I left mine at home this week.
Well,
because everyone was cross at me last week.
Were they?
Because I was mean about Finn Balor.
I thought you were fine last week.
I did too.
Because I thought you were speaking your truth, Dan.
And yeah, tell me when I'm telling lies.
But if I may put on my little hypercritical hat on, if I may, I think we need to stop trying to set up Imperium as contenders for the tag titles because they did another backstage segment here where they're like, I think you're fine though, we're contenders. I was like, how?
Yeah.
Owens have beaten you multiple times now, and I literally just watched you lose.
And Vinci is not around anywhere.
And I was like, literally just watched you get beat by Matt Riddle, and then you walk backstage and be like, I think we'll be the contenders for those tag titles. How? And is that... And I just hear that idiotic Road Dogg interview where he's talking about, I think when you think about it, wins and losses don't matter. Yeah. And then could proceed to tell you why wins and losses matter because he's a moron that doesn't know what he's talking about.
We actually have an example of wins and losses mattering very much coming up.
Oh, don't we just?
Yeah.
I know. Because there's two, I brought this up in my edited review, but cause they pinned Damian Priest and they pinned Nakamura. It does no favors them going to Money in the Bank. Well, wins and losses don't matter. Why do we protect Raquel then?
Right.
Because wins and losses do matter.
Also, in that piece, I just watched it before we came down because you made so many references to it in your review that I was like, well, I kind of need the context for this because I hadn't seen what Road Dogg said. And it is that thing of he's basically making a point of like, wins and losses don't ultimately matter, but you do need to find a way to like make people care about your people so that when someone does beat Becky Lynch, it really matters. So what you're saying is wins and losses matter.
Well, okay. In the defense of Road Dogg here, and I will come to Road Dogg's defense on this one.
Okay?
I'm going to come to Road Dogg's defense on this one. I very much enjoyed his 2006 shoot interview that he did with Billy Gunn that I used to listen to back when I was working my night shift days. In the defense of Road Dogg, he is a man with a big wrestling pedigree behind him because Bullet Bob Armstrong, he comes from a wrestling family. Yeah. In that shoot interview, he said, look, I can only do two things in this world. I can wrestle and I can kill people because he was in Desert Storm. So it's like, those are the only two things I can do in this world. So like wrestling is within his mindset. So he understands that wins and losses matter. But he's also part of the WWE machine that boil people's brains into believing that wins and losses don't matter. So when you get into an interview, he's like, okay, well, I've been told wins and losses don't matter, and that's the company line. But the wrestling instinct in him is to be like, but they do. So here's why they do.
Yeah.
Anyway, Alpha Academy took on Viking Raiders.
Time for the cinema portion of the evening.
They had a backstage segment from earlier in the day where Chad Gable was teaching Maxine how to do a suplex.
In his dad shorts.
Yep, and his polo shirt.
Love it.
This builds on from last week where he was teaching how to do an arm drag. This week we actually got to see like the full class and everything. And he talked about, hey, Otis, it's all in their hips, isn't it? And I was like, what, these? And so I was doing his little hip motion thing. It's so wonderful. They then have this match in which one of the Viking Raiders goes to hit a suplex on Otis, and he reverses it into a suplex of his own, just like Chad taught them. And then Chad gets this hot tag. The place goes mad for him because he's awesome, and he runs wild doing all these wicked stuff, doing suplex of his own, various different suplexes, because he's more masterful than his students. So he could do T-bone suplexes and exploder suplexes.
And they look like works of art.
And then on the outside, Maxine grabs Valhalla and hits a suplex. Only this time, the Viking Raiders learned from their mistake. So he's teaching them things too. And they use the distraction to pin Chad Gable.
It was story told throughout the match. It was simple. It was to the point. It all made sense. Everything that you've just said is exquisite narrative storytelling. Maxine comes around the ring. She's not reacting. She's being proactive. She's saying, "You know what? I trust in my source. I'm going to make this happen." She did it. And it was so good, right? So legit entertaining and so legit perfect that when she did it, like the move itself wasn't perfect, but Valhalla's wearing a lot of fabric. So when she does the move and it works, and the story is so good, when Chad loses, I was gutted. I leant forward. I was like, "No, God, devastating!" But like, it wasn't even in a sense where you're like, "Oh, there's 50-50 or dissension in the ranks or anything like that." It made sense that because they were so excited because they're learning.
Because he was excited for Maxine, and he took his eye off the ball. Yeah. And this time he didn't get the upper hand on Eric like he did last week.
And you know what? They're gonna have this now and again.
And I don't mind it, mate.
I just loved it.
This was great.
Loved it.
This was so good.
The tight, basic, brilliant narrative here. It's brilliant.
Judgment Day color promo, saying they're on the same page. I don't think they are.
Oh, what makes you say that? It wasn't really telegraphed.
And then Rhea Ripley was set to take on Natalya. My first note here is, lol, what?
Yeah.
And then Corey made a reference to her Instagram story.
I haven't seen it.
The Instagram story?
I don't follow it.
I don't think it's not appropriate to tell on a podcast either.
Oh. Whose Instagram story?
Well, Rhea Ripley's Instagram story. It was a thing.
Is it a naughty thing?
Well, it was. Not her, though. I don't think she realized it was a naughty thing that she had shared.
What share?
Okay, I tell you what. I'm going to whisper to you very, very quietly so the microphones don't pick up.
How does she not know what she's sharing? That's fantastic. We've all been there, Rhea. We've all done it. Christ. Okay.
There's this whole thing on Twitter yesterday being like, "Oh, Rhea, no."
Oh, dear.
Don't investigate any further, children. Natty cut a promo backstage saying this is a second chance for her to show that she still belongs. Lol, match did not get started and Rhea beat her up. Gotta protect Natalya, I guess.
So I actually like this idea of giving Natty an identity crisis. And I'll tell you why. Because like I said earlier on...
Why?
Do you know what it is? I just sort of...
Yeah, you just sort of...
I like Natalya. All right, I think she gets a lot of stick, and I don't think she deserves it all. I think she's reliable. I think she's good. I think she's a nice person. I think she's in the wrong generation. Like, I think she wasn't the right fit for the Divas generation, and she's maybe not the most flawless performer in the way that I would think of a Rhea or an Asuka or whatever. But I think she's good, right? And I think that she's become a bit of a joke and a bit of a meme. And I'm like, well, let's try and give her a bit of some character. Let's try and give her something. I respect her a lot, and I
you're trying here, but
I am.
And you know what? I applaud you for it as well.
It's like, but also I did love the fact that Rhea would have seen her say that stuff and be like, "Don't use me for your own identity crisis nonsense." And
it was badass of Rhea.
It was badass of Rhea.
It was badass of Rhea. And actually, I thought it was quite a nice little setup then for Raquel, because Raquel was watching this being like, watching it, that whole like cranking the neck thing to watch it on the screen, and was like, what a disrespect,
right?
To a legend like Rhea Ripley, to like a Natalya rather. And I'm about to step into the ring with a legend like Trish Stratus. What an honor that is for me. And Rhea Ripley walks up and was like, I don't care.
I loved that part.
Yeah,
I thought, and like the stare off between the two of them, I thought was like, oh, are they?
I would agree, but then she had a bad match with Trish Stratus,
I
and
don't
now
agree with you.
I don't want to see that.
I
match.
thought she had a decent match. I thought the clothesline in particular was pretty.
It was one good move.
It was okay, fine. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I thought they were doing well. I thought it was a good thing. Like Zoe suggesting that Trish does a little punch and then doing the punch. I thought the punch looked great. I thought there were good stuff all over. The Trish hook, Corey's delight at coming up with the name Trish Hook. Loved it. I had a good time with it.
He was very pleased with himself for Trish Hook. There was a moment where Zoe Stark tripped Raquel Rodriguez, and she can't even do that right.
Yeah, that one was a big old that was a new Raquel.
Yeah. My thing with Raquel is actually nothing against her. It's her lack of character. Her character is I have her back, and maybe I'm just not a body guy. It's not an impressive back,
but it's a monster.
It is a back. It looks like everyone else's back.
She's got a presence that I think.
I don't think she has.
I think she did on NXT.
But again, that's the smaller place.
But I think what's different is that she's not visually or staturally, it's not a word, different from people on the main roster like a Baszler or especially a Rhea, who is also that kind of like hench big, dominatrix kind of person. It's harder for her to sort of stand out. And I think, I don't know. I think she's got potential.
No, okay, here's what I would say. Here's my big positive that I'm going to put onto this, and I think this is a huge credit to WWE on this. The one thing I have bemoaned about Rhea Ripley's title reign, bearing in mind, since winning that title, she has been in the ring for less than 15 minutes. That is appalling. One of the things I bemoaned about her title reign is that she's not been set up any good challenges. Raquel is a good challenger.
Yeah.
Because she has been positioned as someone who is a dominant force. She won a 2-on-1 handicap match a couple of weeks ago before losing the tag title match. So this is good. It is good to set her up. Am I into it? Not particularly, but I don't. That's not a reason to not do it.
Yeah.
So I think this is on paper a very, very good thing. I'm not into it, but it is a very good thing.
Right. Yeah. And then I liked the ending of the match as well. This is a rare compliment from me for a DQ ending.
So Becky Lynch comes out and attacks Zoe Stark. Trish, crafty veteran, rolls out of the ring, and in the melee, Becky attacks her as well. Referee sees this, calls for the DQ. I think the overacting here was a little bit much when Becky was like, "Oh no!" Head in hands, like, "What have I done?" It was a bit. We were over-egging the pudding ever so slightly. Raquel's bad acting in the ring wasn't helping matters either. But Trish and Zoe walking up the ring, laughing, I very much enjoyed. And I think what sold me on this was Becky's promo afterwards.
Yeah.
Becky is awesome. She's so great. She has this promo with Byron Saxton where she said, "Do you know what? I have got bad beef with Damage Control. And both of them are in this ladder match. I've got bad beef with Zoe Stark and Trish Stratus, and both of them are in this match. I don't know where I stand with Zelina Vega. I don't think I've got good history with her either. I am either going to overcome all of these odds, and I'm going to win this thing, or I'm going to crash and burn. And I'm going to go out in a blaze of glory, and I'm going to take Trish and Zoe with me." Really sold me on her plight that she's got in this match, because she's going in there with 0 friends against 2 teams and against Zelina Vega. I think there's some really good stuff in there.
Yeah.
And it's made me very invested in Becky's run in Money in the Bank.
Yeah, it's a really, I completely agree to all of that. I liked the DQ because it made sense. Because it wasn't like, it's the baby face sort of, you always see it as the heel, I don't want to do this anymore, so I'm going to disqualify or whatever, blah, 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 and the match. This one, it was like, it was the way that I actually liked the way that Becky and Raquel sold it, because it's that big in the arena doing the melodrama thing or whatever, and they're both sort of going like, "Well, I had her," and she's like, "I know," and I think what I heard Becky say was like, "It's not normally my way to get involved, and I usually stay out of it, but I still couldn't help myself, and I'm sorry, I get it." And I quite liked that you almost in this segment gave me a shot of like Raquel and Rhea and Raquel and Becky. I was like, well, I haven't seen those little matchups before, and I quite liked the idea of Raquel being like, "Hang on, I got screwed out of a chance there. Rhea's coming for me. I'm cross." Like, I don't know. It was giving her a little bit of spice, giving her something to do. And then you're right, with the promo Becky cut afterwards, it was full of fire. It was full of like that kind of idea of, I'm fully the underdog in this. I don't think I have seen Becky as the person to win this.
I don't think she's going to win.
I think it's Io Sky's to lose. However, what you've given me there is the big underdog, and enough to drive her. It's Becky. You turned Becky Lynch into the underdog, which is unfamiliar.
I like it,
and I think that was really cool. And so as a result, I would like to rescind my criticism from last week to 2 of the Irish. Becky and Finn, I said both were sort of slightly underwhelming for me. This week, they absolutely brought it big time. Kevin Patrick, step up next week. All right?
In between all of this as well, Zayn and Owens became the partners for Cody Rhodes, and Kathy Kelly interviewed. It's Kathy Kelly, isn't it? Yeah, interviewed Bron Breakker, who I quite liked his line of like, well, maybe the doctor will prescribe Seth Rollins some courage so he can come to NXT tomorrow and defend his title. I thought it was a pretty decent promo from Bron.
I did too, and I really liked
his wacky tan.
It's very tanned, isn't it? I actually quite liked that he was speaking quietly, and I know that sounds like a really weird thing to say, but it almost gave him an extra bit of flavor. It was something a bit different. Normally, you get these promos and they're delivering their lines, and it's very like that. But he was just kind of like there. He was talking, and it was like, "This is your
that heel turn's been magic for him."
Yeah, and I think if you're a Raw viewer, and I'm not a regular NXT viewer, I dip in for the big angles. I'll be watching tonight because I'm excited to see this match. I think having them pop up for these sort of brief segments on Raw to give them this opportunity to try something like this, to introduce them to the casual crowd, to give them that experience of dealing with being on the main roster. I think like with Zoe Stark last week with the What Chants and things like that, like, you know, in contrast to the Party Girls' entrance not really working, it's good experience. We were good experience. Get into this. We were talking, Pete Tempest and I, about the match, and it was like we sort of were like, well, why if they just put the title on Bron Breakker tonight on NXT? And then it was like, well, what do you do about Money in the Bank? And it's like, well, I mean, the tickets are already sold, so you can't even argue that the Seth and Finn match is the reason people are paying to see tickets. And we are also a little bit like, hang on, what's this match? Make it a triple threat. There's some spice in that. If you wanna push Bron Breakker, what a statement, huh? You know, I don't know. There's something interesting about the person, and I think this was a really good intro to your regular audience for Bron Breakker. I liked it a lot.
Shinsuke Nakamura lost to Bronson Reed, basically because of Ricochet. It wasn't Ricochet interference, but sort of Ricochet distractions. Presence was there, and it led to Bronson Reed. I've seen people be a bit down on Bronson Reed effectively squashing Nakamura. It felt like a bit of a squash in all of this. Look, I wouldn't be pinning Nakamura before he goes to Money in the Bank. But that's just me. I wouldn't be pinning anyone that is in Money in the Bank because I'm trying to give them as much momentum as possible. But Nakamura's not winning Money in the Bank. Nakamura is part of this 3-way feud with Bronson Reed and Ricochet, and within that, you do need to make Bronson Reed look good. So I didn't mind this. It's not what I would do, but I did not mind this.
I think the reason I was actually quite pleased with this is that there was a time when a feud like this would have been over dog food or like a mop or something, and like what's happening here is that these are just two people who aren't getting along and they irritate each other, and they're both in this match and they're kind of like they just don't like each other, and they're having a bit of a scrap over it, and they're going to be in the Money in the Bank match. It's a way of getting heat for their sequence in the Money in the Bank ladder match to add an extra level of spice to what is otherwise a ladder match that we see twice a year every year.
Look, I like the fact that we're getting different storylines going into Money in the Bank. I like that it's not just 6 dudes.
Yes.
I like that it's 6 dudes, most of which have storylines going in involving each other. Particularly in the women's one, I think they've really nailed it in the women's in the women's match. You know, with the Damage Control breakup and Becky with Zoe and Trish. Here you got Ricochet and Nakamura going into there. You got LA Knight story. Like I think that it's a smart way for Money in the Bank. So it's not just here are 6 lads going for a briefcase.
Right. It's an extra spice.
Exactly. Seth cuts a FOMO on his prone sorry. It's because I was also reading promo at the same time. Seth was doing a promo on his phone.
Yeah.
Or his prone. And so he doesn't give a damn what the doctors say. These doctors have got no sway in this company whatsoever. They told Cody he couldn't wrestle. He still did. Telling Rollins he can't wrestle. He still is. What is the point of you doctors? And he'll be at NXT tomorrow. Which led us to our main event of Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Cody Rhodes versus the Judgment Day. This crowd was fired up for this main event. Wow.
Yes, I loved this match.
This crowd came alive for this main event. And this was a really fun 6-man. Was it as good as the one on Collision? No. Was it as good as the one on Dynamite? No. But Hard Damn was this a lot of fun. Like, it was really, really good. And Kevin Owens got this hot tag.
Yeah.
That was wonderful.
And he was doing, I mean, at one point the crowd were chanting spicy things, which meant it was being cut out and I couldn't hear what they were saying. But the crowd
was saying the P words. it was what they used to say for Shane, like back in the Attitude Era. Like, it's a chant I've not heard for like 20 odd years.
It's scandalo. But it's a great it was Kevin Owens was like, you know, giving it all of that. If he's been this is where your payoff is, actually, thinking about it. He's been controlling his temper all night, and he's now finally letting go, like, because all he wanted to do was punch someone. I'm like, go on, then punch someone. And he's like, come on, let me in, get the crowd going, go for the hot tag. And what a hot tag it was. And then what I also liked was that Cody got his own little hot tag with a similar level of reaction, because what that ended up doing was building this match where I'm looking at these three men, and I'm like, there's your main event scene. Sorry, Seth.
I know, right?
You know,
Yeah.
I think
they feel way more over than Seth does.
These
Seth,
tag titles.
the song, granted, is massively over, but like these guys felt way big time.
The song is over, sure, but when Seth finishes a show, when Seth is in the main event, I'm like, this is gonna be good. When these three are in the main event, I'm like, this is a main event. I'm excited to watch this.
Absolutely.
I love the reactions from the crowd. I love their style. I love the way these two tag together. Obviously, I'm a Cody stan. Like, I don't know. I loved it, and I said it last week, and I'll say it again. I'm happy with these two holding their titles in the air as the show goes off the air, because it makes me feel like the crowd have been sent home happy. They feel like stars.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah, I thought this was a tremendous match. I feel bad for like, it was a weird one with Judgment Day though, because I was looking and I was like, well, you can't pin Finn. You're not going to be pinning Dom, so you've got to pin Damian Priest. Like, but I don't think I'd be pinning Damian Priest either. He's like the best of the three to pin, but it's not the guy that I'd be choosing to pin. You find yourself in this very tricky position of like, well, the good guys ain't losing, but I don't know what I'm going to do on the other. Who am I pinning on the other side? My
other side of that coin, the sort of like, yes, Damian did take the pin. He got a near fall on Cody, and it wasn't a kick out. He had a chokeslam on Cody, and if Sammy hadn't broken that up, he held him down for 3, which I think was actually kind of a big deal. And that's where your wins and losses don't matter stuff goes away, because Cody's lost twice, right? I'm not wrong in that. He's lost to Roman and lost to Brock.
Yeah.
In the whole time he's been back in WWE, he has lost twice. So imagine if Damian Priest pinned Cody Rhodes. That would be a huge statement. Is when we had Cody and Solo, which one of them who haven't been beaten is going to be. So the idea of, you know, I think Priest getting potentially a very close near fall just gives him enough sort of like, no, he's actually
it's a little bit
good.
of credibility
it's
for
a
him.
little bit of credibility. I do take the point of when you do take the pin, who else was going to take the pin?
Well, that's it. I think he was
satisfying to watch Cody take the pin. To watch Dom take the pin, sorry.
He can't be Dom.
Yeah.
Because the whole point is you want to see Dom get beaten at the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And you can't pin Finn because he's going for the world title. So it had to be Damian Priest. Sucks for Priest, but it was the option of the three. I've seen some people in the comments, they've been like, oh, of course you have to compare it to the AEW ones. That's more of a commentary on people comparing it to the AEW ones. Because when I went on Twitter this morning, saw a lot of unfair comparisons being like, yeah, it was good, but it wasn't as good as the one on Collision or Dynamite. But I was like, well, it doesn't matter. Just because it wasn't as good doesn't mean it wasn't good. Yeah. This was a great match.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoyed this main event.
Yeah, I did too. And I think you're right. I think it is that thing of like, if you're enjoying something, you don't need to make a comparison, do you? Yeah. So,
but yeah, overall, I thought this was a totally fine episode of Raw.
I thought I had such a good time with the show that I'm giving it 4.5. I had so much
fun.
I really liked it. From bell to bell, I just was engaged and enjoying myself and energized, and I was excited to watch the next segment. I wasn't fasting forward like I normally do in some bits where I'm like, skip that entrance or whatever. I was just in. I really enjoyed it.
I'm really happy for you. No, I don't mean that as like a derogatory thing. Like, my thing more on this was like, I could have watched the highlights package.
Right.
And I would have gotten this did not feel like must-watch television. This did not feel like, if I didn't see this episode and then I came into the office and people would be like, oh, you missed a killer episode. 2 weeks ago when I was on holiday.
Oh, yeah.
And I came back and Pete was like, you missed a great episode of Raw. That was not this episode.
Right.
If I missed this episode because I was on holiday, I don't think I'd have anyone telling me, like, you really need to watch last week's episode of Raw. That's what I mean. It's just like, this was a totally fine, missable, skippable episode of Raw. But if you did watch it, it wasn't bad.
And for me, I did watch it, and every segment felt like it was simple and to the point, and I appreciated that. That was good.
We're going to give a shout out to our Patreon pledge hammers. While you're here in the live chat, please do get your votes in on what you thought of the show. Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle, as we give a special shout out to some of our wonderful back us over on patreon.com/WrestleTalk. It's Wednesday tomorrow. You know what that means. Wrestle Talk After Dark is going live. Pete Tempest, Laurie, and Dave Bradshaw sitting down, having a couple of drinks and answering your questions. And then next week, it'll be myself and Oliver Davis reviewing TNA Slammiversary 2009, featuring not one, not three, but 2 King of the Mountain matches, one of which, check this out as a lineup. It's the champion Mick Foley.
Oh, yeah.
Defending against Kurt Angle.
Oh.
Defending against AJ Styles.
Oh.
Defending against Samoa Joe. Defending against the King of the Mountain himself, Jeff Jarrett. In a match type he's never lost before.
That's gracious.
Also features Sting versus Matt Morgan in quite a bad match. And even more, get this, Christopher Daniels versus Shane Douglas in 2009.
Okay.
The highlight of the show, though, and of course it was going to be the highlight of the show, the Monsters Ball tag match of the Abyss and Taylor Wilde versus Daphne and Raven.
Oh, yeah.
With Dr. Stevie in the corner. Oh, it's amazing.
It's a show painted for you.
Oh, I loved it. It was so great. So go and check that out. That'll be released next week over at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. But if you are one of our $25 and above Patreon Pledge members, you get your name read out on shows like this one, like these fine folk. Paul, the enigmatic bell tower Toff.
This is some kind of Patreon shout out, Nate. Dropped surname.
The Batsman, Nathan Batty.
The number 1 villain, Nikolai Martinson.
In the intriguing infrared, Ne Alfredo Wheel.
Peter Fiber Brantois.
Probably better than Kyle, Philip O'Reilly.
PCW's inspiration, Preston.
The man who wears the gold, the man recognized by SWAF Nation International as the 24/7 champion, Legend.
Raw's brand ambassador, Redman 2490.
Reese Cook, what the Rock is smelling.
And Burly Rob Burwell.
There it is. Thank you all so much for being our wonderful backers on Patreon. We love each and every one of you. Hell of a lot of perks going up there at the moment, including Adam and Sullivan playing through My Rise mode on 2K23. That was on last Friday, so you can go watch the replay of that. There's uncut versions of No Holds Barred, which is the board game channel, board game video series we're doing over on Parts of Unknown. Early access to the Monday Night War, as well as the booking podcast available. So a lot of stuff to sink your teeth into for just $5 US. Let's get into the rest of your Ultranats. Ding, ding, ding for the last of those. Charles Berg kicks us off here to say hot-ish take. The men's Money in the Bank has 2 potential winners, LA Knights and Logan Paul. They're the only 2 guys in this match. While everyone in the match is very talented, they are mid-carders. Only 2 people have the charisma needed to hold the briefcase jam that jam. I don't fully agree with that, Charles, because I think it's 3. I'd add Damian Priest into that. But I do agree it's those 2, and I would add Priest on as a 3rd.
It's an opportunity to give some of them that, to give them that rub, to turn them into the people who you could one day see at the top. Yeah.
Ryan Marshall says the potential LA Knight promos with Seth or Roman is what I need. And what's the chances of Triple H saying screw it and just bringing Butch out as Pete Dunne this weekend or next weekend? High, I'd say.
Yeah, I was gonna say low because Vince, but sod it. Why not?
Joe Strikes. Logan is a draw for the haters to fuel them to say things like, lol, best thing at the pay-per-view was a YouTuber doing a flip. Wrestling so fake. A YouTuber could pick it up in a day. Logan draws negative attention to WWE, similar to CM Punk and AEW.
Interesting take.
That is an interesting take. I don't know if I fully agree with it. I totally get what Joe's going for and what Joe's means. I don't know if I agree.
I think there's something. I think from the conversations I've had, seeing him, the way he takes a stunner or the way he did that cool holding the selfie and while doing the jump onto Roman, I think it looks cool. And I get the haters like to come and say anything, but they'll do anything. So
yeah, and I think you're right with like the haters on Punk and AEW, but I think Punk's got way more people on his side watching AEW than people who are detracted from him. Will Campbell says, Cody taking a full entrance to accept a match challenge is the type of over-the-top campy BS I can expect to enjoy from him. Also, on another note, I have a very nasty feeling that Triple H is going to pull the trigger on Logan Paul because branding trademark. Speaking of Logan Paul, do you want to see him win? No, 73%. It's higher than I was expecting. So I am wrong. Thank you very much for voting in that poll. Matt Hennessy has got a string of chats here, which I'll read out in one go. He said, I'm going to start off being positive before the negative. SRS had mentioned in his Raw show last week that people you wouldn't expect to be high on Johnny Gargano are high on him, and people you wouldn't expect to beg him to stay with WWE were begging when his ended. So last Wednesday, SRS did a "What do you guys want to talk about?" which is basically a Q&A. So I asked him if Vince was who he was referring to when he mentioned people you wouldn't expect being high on Gargano, and he said yes, that VKM is high on Gargano, and people SRS has spoken to in WWE said Vince begged him to stay and wanted both him and Candice on the main roster as in-ring talent. VKM made it clear to both of them when they were ready to return to wrestling to talk to him. So Vince, Hunter, and HBK are high on him, which is good. Better Wrestling Experience has a report over the last month saying DIY are expected to be pushed to the top team and a major vocal point of the tag division again, which is good news. DIY versus Say No is yes, please, at SummerSlam. So with all that good news that's come out about Gargano, it's great and happy to hear now. Now to be negative, why wasn't he on this show? Why not do him and Rollins for 20 minutes, have him look good in defeat? Or if not, just give him a win on TV. I really enjoyed WWE since Hunter took over, but not to have Johnny on this show was just a dumb move. I can't defend regardless of whose call it was. You had an open goal and you missed. Got to be critical on that front. You have to do better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's this. It's Vince changing things up. If that's what's gone down, that's messed with the order of the show, and the plan was to have Gargano. Compete.
We don't know if that's the plan.
We don't know.
That's speculation.
But let's say it was.
Yeah.
Then that is a massive shame. That is an open goal, and that is a thing that's been missed. Because I think in defeat, you could look very strong and have Finn come out and do the attack at the end of the match.
Mm-hmm.
I think I love the idea of Ciampa and Gargano doing DIY again now.
Yeah, I think DIY reunion has been on the cards for quite some time. But they very much made that clear after the draft. That's where we were heading. And I think even pre-draft is where we're giving us that direction.
It's August 5th is SummerSlam. If we want to imagine Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus DIY, you've got a whole month there. We've had Ciampa do the debut, Gargano coming back at another week's time. It's a shame to miss the hometown pop. I think it's the best choice to give them both on the main roster a run together. I think it will do so much for, and especially like I say, those main event tag team titles feel like main events. So
Vandalian 1998 said, it looks like Finn watched last week's Wrestle Talk and saw your criticism and upped his game.
I'm an influencer.
Natari Hickson said, hi Wrestle Talk, you can just call me Natty. I laugh every time you try to pronounce my name. Speaking of Natty, does Raw just not have credible women for Rhea to fight? They ever give her nothing title reign? At least Charlotte is a big name. Well, I think Natty, Raquel.
Yeah.
I think is a big name for her to face.
Yeah.
Brody here says, too much fantasy in this booking, but what if Priest wins Money in the Bank, has a cash-in interrupted in Finn versus Seth, leading to Finn leaving Judgment Day? Think he could be built to win Rumble this year? Priest then cashes in with Dom for the tag titles, if it is still any title. I don't want them to be used for the tag titles.
I don't want them to be used for any title other than the main event. The only person who I think, if you want to make this an any championship belt, there is one person on the roster who should be in that match. His name is Sheamus. The one person who I think that briefcase should be used for to go for a belt that is not a world title is Sheamus, because he has not won the Intercontinental title ever, and he's been cheated out of it time and time again, and he wants to take it to Gunther. Give it to him. That's the only case. So yeah.
And Finn leaving Judgment Day, I think we are heading in that direction. I kind of like Ollie's fantasy booking that he's got of this, of JD replacing him.
Yeah, I do too.
Mr. Toff 2 has been in Membug for 5 months in a row, and I felt bad for Dom during his promo. I know it's meant to be heat, but he was clearly rattled by it. Have fun on the first. We'll see you at the next one. I didn't feel he was rattled in his promo.
I didn't either. And actually, I think I'm getting more and more confident that London are going to boo him out of the building. I think it's just more fun. I think what London are going to find the most fun? Booing Dominic Mysterio.
Either that or it's the ironic.
I just don't think it will be the ironic.
I don't think it will be either. Colby says LA Knight winning Money in the Bank will be Mr. Kennedy winning, but actually having it go the right way and having a good ending. Lots of love to Dan and Luke. This is my first Ultranat.
Thanks very much, Colby.
10 Rizzo has been a member for 22 months in a row. Says, Dan, my man. Luke, you brilliant man. Dan, Kathy was killing it. Keen to grab you both a pint. Hope to find out about all-in plans. I'm coming from Australia. Crikey.
Long way. You'll need a pint after that.
The Dango Man said, eyes peeled. We don't know what the plan is yet for All In. The Dango Man said, I believe LA Knight wins in London, but Vince is going to get cold feet and is going to make him cash it in on Gunther after he breaks the record. I don't hope so, but it's what my pessimistic WWE mind thinks of. I don't know if I'd agree with that, but could be. Gabriel Reyes has been in Menberg for 23 months in a row. Said, with Theory being a 7th man who didn't qualify last year and Paul doing the same thing this year, I hope they don't repeat the finish. I want Knight to win. Edgar Carrasco has been in Menberg for 18 months in a row. Says, the Rollins beatdown makes me believe that Balor might actually win at Money in the Bank, but I highly doubt they'd have that. Wouldn't make the belt feel credible. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm rereading.
It could be that Balor actually wins at Money in the Bank, but Edgar doesn't think they'll do that. It won't make the belt feel credible. Just hot potatoing it early doors.
Yeah, and yet also giving it to someone with a level of intensity of Finn maybe will. I don't know.
I think he needs a bit more building
right,
up. Yeah. York here says, Ultra Chat before work. Sorry if this has been said already. I kind of want Finn to win. Judgment Day interfere BC style and Judgment Day show up for the final help to get Finn the win. Also, it was so good seeing the full Judgment Day entrance. It's been a while. Ryan Marshall said, okay, I'm with Luke on Wes Anderson movies, but now I want to see him take over and direct an episode of Raw.
Everything takes place in the center of the ring. There are nowhere else.
Martial Arts, hey guys, didn't watch Raw and I haven't in a while, but I want to take a chance to tell you that your job matters. My girlfriend of 12 years broke up with me last Friday, and I know I'm now in a darkest timeline. Your clips, your positivity, your jokes, and stupid stuff helped me through my dark times in the past, and I'm certain the rest talk will do this again. I'm heartbroken and uncertain of my future, but you guys are the constant, and I love you all for it. What you're doing matters. You're amazing. Apples. Oh, Marcel, I'm very sorry to hear that.
Yeah, the thing that Frasier says at the very beginning of the first episode of Frasier is it's a whole thing about you grieving the life you thought you were going to have, but life does go on. So I'm very, very sorry about that. That is rubbish, but rubbish. You are going to be okay. I promise.
Everyone give Marcel some shout outs in the chat as well. He's a good dude. Vandalia here says, Dan, you said you think Nat is wrestling in the wrong generation. So which wrestler, which generation would you put her in?
It's such a weird one. I don't know. I just mean that she didn't quite fit the diva mold, but she doesn't quite fit she's almost like this. She's in the wrong universe. I don't know.
She's in the wrong timeline.
Yeah, because I think she's good. She's really good. I think
she had that SummerSlam match a couple of years ago that were dead good with Becky.
That's it. I think the thing that's let her down is it was with Naomi.
Yeah, it might have been Naomi.
It was Naomi.
I think she had a match with Becky that was dead good as well.
She had a match with Charlotte that was dead good. I think the problem is that the character work hasn't been as strong.
It's because she had Mandy for 16 years.
The boat is nonsense. Like, I don't want to call you the boat. That's not cool. I don't know. That's why I'm like, okay, well, let's give her a bit of spice, give her a bit of something else, because I respect her a lot.
Ben Vlaric says, sorry, fellas, but not WWE related. But I was wondering if you guys are going to play AEW Fight Forever next week when it comes out. I'm personally very excited for it. It seems super fun. It'd be great to see you guys play it. Anyways, cheers. Well, Ben, twiddle my mustache a little bit there. Perhaps, maybe something. It is currently installed on our PlayStation upstairs, after all. I might have played it quite a bit today.
Oh, matron!
I might have won a match as Aubrey Edwards, beating John Moxley in a barbed wire death match.
Of course you did.
One of the first things I did, basically. I was like, how do I get Aubrey Edwards?
Oh, God.
I can't say it because we're embargoed on reviews.
Yeah.
But that's what I did. Charles Berg has been in Menberg for 25 months in a row, and he says, Menberg is also what I call my wang.
Christ.
2 years in, I just want to say you're welcome. And I guess thanks for the great content too. You're all decent folk. Well, thank you very much, Charles. Ten Ruzza said, also, Dan, WrestleMania 19, really? Judging you hard, man. I hate Logan Paul being involved in all of this, not in a heel way, just in a switch off, don't care kind of way. Dan, I hope CM Punk acknowledges you as the actual truth. Bring on Forbidden Door and Okada versus Danielson.
And then bring on All In and Leighton versus Punk for the title of the truth on a ladder match.
Mr. Higglesby here. Also, I mean, you want to talk about your WrestleMania 19?
Here's the thing. On the episode of No Holds Barred, I said that WrestleMania 19 was like not awful, but like fine, right? Because I really like WrestleMania 19. And in my experience,
it's what everyone always says about Chris Jericho versus Kurt Angle.
It wasn't Jericho.
No, it was Shawn Michaels, Kurt Angle.
Right, look at here. Okay, in my experience, when I like something, people think it's mid. So if anything, it was a self-burn and I should have more self-belief. However, I will also put you, the Miller Lite Catfight Girls had a whole segment. Undertaker's match was supposed to be a tag with Nathan Jones, and then it didn't happen, so it was just a plodding match with Big Show and A-Train. There was the match against Booker T and
Triple H
that nobody really cares about. There's Hulk Hogan and Mr. McMahon,
which is great.
Sure, but like, and I get this. I really like the show, but I don't know if it's like one of the best of all time.
No, I don't think it's one of the best WrestleManias of all time either.
But I also forgot.
Oh, because Kurt Angle was in the main event. What am I talking about?
Right. Well, I mean, it's a great main event. Oh, do you know what? Whatever. I just thought people would think that I think I've got bad taste, but apparently I've got brilliant taste. So
it's no 17.
Well, nothing is.
No. Higglesby said, Luke, have you seen the Kraven the Hunter trailer? Any idea if there is a movie channel that can see it in theaters? Have a lovely day, especially WrestleTalk's most handsome lad, Professor Dan Layton. I actually have not watched the Kraven the Hunter trailer yet.
Neither have I.
A friend of mine did say, Kraven the Hunter, I'm craving a better looking movie.
Wow, what a line.
I thought the poster with the, that iconic image of Kraven the Hunter, my first thought when I saw that was like, he'll be in that costume for the final shot of the movie.
Great.
Everything else, he'll be in that little leather vest and we'll be waiting for the origin of that costume. My big bold prediction is the post-credit sequence will be him meeting Morbius, Vulture, and Venom. And then he'll go like, so, who's our next prey?
Oh, dear.
Cut to black for a sequel that will never happen. And Fox Jonan says, has been a member for 4 months in a row, says, hey, lads, if you ever got WWE versus AEW, what would be some of the dream matches you'd like to see? Mine are OC Walter, Usos versus the Bucks, New Day versus Death Triangle, Omega Roman.
Yeah, that's tasty.
Yeah.
Did I give you my... I did it last week, but I don't know if I did it on the show. My fantasy booking for a True Forbidden Door.
Oh, yes, you did.
Did I do it on the show?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it would be very, very funny. I also am... who would I want? I guess KO and Sammy against...
Lucha Bros.
Well, I was going to say... Or maybe Bucks. I was going to say...
Actually, yeah, bring up some of that PWG magic.
Do you know, that's what I'm thinking. Because I was going to say like FTR, but I was like, well, we've seen that. We've seen the revival.
Well, that's the thing. I kind of like the Usos versus the Bucks, I think is a real obvious answer, but I almost kind of want to relive some PWG stuff.
But like now, when they've all been main event people,
yeah.
when they've all been huge stars in this way, that would be tasty, wouldn't it?
Did have a laugh. There was a image went around last week of people sharing like all of the current WWE or people who are holding WWE gold and saying like, see, this is what happens when you have a performance center and you can create your own stars. And I'm gonna be like Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, Walter, Sami Zayn. It's like every single person here is like from the independent circuit.
Literally Roman Reigns is the only one who's in house. Like
it's him, Rhea Ripley, I guess.
Yeah.
But everyone else was wrestling.
Famous performance center find Asuka.
Yeah, so I mean, there's some good options there, of course. Right, let's end this poll to see what you thought of this show. Wow, this is split. It's only got 5% thumbs down. It's the mid and ups that are the interesting one here, because 51% thumbs up, mid 43%. That's a real split of people being like, yeah.
It's nice to be in a good mood sometimes. I've learned. It's a rarity.
Also, Dan, who is Claire and why is she an absolute peach?
Oh, yeah. So I was in the airport yesterday and there was a bottle of Absolute vodka that was flavored Absolute Peach. And I just picked a random name and said, oh, yeah, I know Claire. She's a Absolute Peach.
Oh, I see.
It's very... If you come and follow me on Instagram, that's what you're getting.
Good comedy. Thank you all so much for watching, everyone. We'll be back on Thursday with the AEW Dynamite review. In fact, it'll be the AEW Dynamite review. It'll be the go-home show. Then on Friday, it'll be Forbidden Door predictions. And then over the weekend, Forbidden Door live reactions. The Truth Dan Layton will be in the building along with Chopper Pete Quinnell. Then on the Monday, myself and Chopper Pete Quinnell will be reviewing Forbidden Door. And then we have all of the usual stuff. So no Collision review next week because on the Monday we're going to be reviewing Forbidden Door instead.
Get ready to join us for the Forbidden Door live reactions and see me react to people being kicked in the face because I genuinely, it's going to be a lot of, I love it. It's going to be great.
It is a show with Okada versus Danielson.
I mean.
And amazingly enough, I don't think it's going to be the match of the night because Omega Ospreay won. I still think is the best match of this year.
Yeah.
I think it's the greatest professional wrestling match of 2023, and I don't think anything has come within an arse's roar of touching it.
Give us something amazing, and then give us the third and final match.
And now we've got the sequel coming,
Oh.
and it's a very different Omega. It's a very different Will. And I cannot wait for it.
And then the week after is Money in the Bank. They're feeding the children. I love it.
Yeah, with our live show as well. If you have got your ticket for our Money in the Bank party, extra tickets for Quizlemania will be going on sale this Thursday at 1 o'clock. You'll be sent out an email notification, so be at the ready for it. Until then, I've been Luke Owen, DAD. That has been the Professor Dan Layton. Jam that jam.